No, 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 Kodak, you're not kidding. Oh my God.
It was supposed to be a quick food pickup for Kodak Black until the cashier pulled out his phone. And word is that within minutes, gunshots erupt within the restaurant, causing Kodak to take off for his life. But did he make it out alive? You would want to see this shocking footage first. The Pizza Hut incident. When fandom turns dangerous. Now, before we even get into the absolute chaos that unfolded inside this Pizza Hut on the night of February 15th, 2026, you need to understand something very, very important about the world that Kodak Black lives in every single day of his life. Because when you and I walk into a restaurant, we are thinking about one thing and one thing only: what we are about to eat. Maybe we are thinking about whether we want extra cheese or whether the garlic knots are worth the up. Maybe we are debating between a large and a medium because we know good and well we are going to eat the whole thing regardless. But when you are a rapper with the kind of history, the kind of baggage, the kind of target on your back that Kodak Black has been carrying around for the better part of a decade, walking into any public space is a calculated risk every single time. No exceptions. And on that particular evening, Kodak Black, whose real name is Bill Kahan Copy, entered a Pizza Hut casually for what appeared to be a routine pickup. He was not alone. Standing right there beside him was Miranda Johnson, the mother of two of his children. The two of them walked in like any normal couple, picking up a late-night order. The setting was exactly what you would expect. A typical fast food restaurant at night, dim lighting, barely any customers around. Nothing about the scene suggested that anything out of the ordinary was about to happen. Kodak was dressed down, wearing a cap and casual clothes, looking completely at ease. Just a man and the mother of his children grabbing some food. With that ease. It lasted all of about 5 seconds. Because the very moment the cashier behind the counter laid eyes on the man standing in front of them, everything changed. And I mean everything. The entire energy in that restaurant flipped like a light switch. Oh my God, oh my God. That right there is the sound of a person whose entire brain short-circuited in real time. The cashier, who was supposed to be doing one job, taking an order and handing over food, immediately pulled out a phone and started recording, expressing excitement. And just like that, the entire dynamic of the interaction shifted from professional service to personal fandom. The cashier was no longer an employee at a fast food chain. They had transformed in the span of a single heartbeat into a fan who simply could not contain themselves. Now, here is where things got real. Because Kodak Black did not smile for the camera. He did not pose. He did not lean into the moment the way some celebrities might. Instead, he subtly backed away and turned toward the exit, ready to abandon his order. He was out. He was done. The food could stay right there on that counter. Because Kodak Black was not about to stick around while somebody pointed a camera at his face without his permission in a public space where anybody could be watching. And you might be sitting there thinking, come on, it's just a phone. It's just a fan being excited. What's the big deal? And if that is what you were thinking, then you clearly do not remember what happened to P&B Rock. So when Kodak Black sees a camera come out in a restaurant, he is not thinking about clout. He is not thinking about going viral. He is thinking about survival. And the people on social media understood this immediately. Reactions poured in with comments warning that this how they had got PMBB Rock. Others noted that Yak wasn't about to risk it, referencing the very real and very documented danger that comes with having your location broadcast to the entire world without your consent. But here is the twist that nobody expected. Because just as Kodak was about to disappear through that door and vanish into the floor at night, the cashier did something that stopped him dead in his tracks. Kodak, I love you. Bro, no, for real. The panic in that voice was unmistakable. The cashier realized in that single terrifying instant that they had messed up. They had let their excitement override their professionalism. And now the person they admired most was literally walking away because of it. I'm going to serve you food. I serve you food. I serve you food. Please. And that plea, that desperate, almost childlike plea, is what brought Kodak back. After a brief hesitation, Kodak returned, pointed to the menu to confirm his order, and proceeded. The interaction, which had teetered on the edge of becoming yet another cautionary tale about celebrity and public spaces, de-escalated in a matter of seconds, and in the end, the encounter concluded amicably with a fist bump and staff photos. And the one question that seemed to hang over all of it like a storm cloud, was the cashier wrong? Or was Kodak overreacting? The answer, as you are about to find out, is far more complicated than you think. Because to truly understand why Kodak Black reacted the way he did in that Pizza Hut, you have to go back way back. Back to the streets of Pompano Beach, back to the housing projects, back to the very first time a young boy named Ian Octave realized that the world was not built to keep him safe. And what you find when you dig into that history is a story that will make you understand exactly why a camera phone in a fast food restaurant can feel like a loaded weapon. The making of a man who can't trust anybody. Kodak Black was not born into comfort. He was not born into stability. He was not born into anything that even remotely resembled the kind of life that would allow a person to relax in a Pizza Hut without looking over their shoulder. No, Kodak Black. Born deuce and octave on June 11, 1997, in Pompano Beach, Florida. Grew up in poverty in the Golden Acres public housing project. Raised by a single Haitian immigrant mother. His father was not in the picture. The neighborhood was rough. The options were limited, and the path forward was laid out in the simplest and most brutal terms imaginable. There was no safety net. There was no backup plan. There was only the reality of the streets and whatever you could scrape together to survive them. He later reflected on those early years, describing how he was essentially given two options: sell drugs with a gun on his hip or rap. That was it. Those were the two doors that the universe placed in front of a child who had not even finished elementary school. And speaking of school, he was expelled in the 5th grade for fighting and arrested for auto theft during middle school. By the time most kids are worrying about homework and recess, Kodak was already navigating a system that had very little patience and even less mercy for a young black boy. Growing up in South Florida, the system was not designed to save him. It was designed to process him, but music called to him. Even as the streets pulled at him from every direction, even as the temptations of fast money and faster trouble whispered in his ear, he found something in the rhythm, in the words. In the act of putting pen to paper and transforming pain into poetry, by age 6, he adopted the nickname Black, and at 12, he joined local rap collectives, like Brutal Youngs and He was learning his craft in the most unconventional classrooms imaginable. Trap houses, street corners, makeshift studios held together with duct tape and ambition. He even read dictionaries and thesauruses to expand his vocabulary, teaching himself language in the same spaces where others were weighing product. And then the music started working. His breakthrough came with mixtapes like Project Baby in 2013 and the viral track No Flocking in 2014. Boosted by Drake's endorsement, suddenly, the kid from Golden Acres was on everybody's radar. Signed to Atlantic Records in 2015, he released chart-topping albums including Painting Pictures, which debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200, and Dying to Live, which hit number 1. Hits like Tunnel Vision and the sextuple Platinum ZZ were everywhere. Kodak Black was no longer just a local rapper from South Florida. He was a national phenomenon. The world knew his name, his face, his voice, and that kind of visibility, as he would soon learn, comes with a price that nobody warns you about until it is far too late. But fame, as it so often does for young men who come from nothing, brought with it a tidal wave of trouble that threatened to drown everything he had built. Because while the music was climbing the charts, Kodak Black was racking up arrests at a pace that was almost hard to believe. In 2015 alone, he was arrested in Pompano Beach for robbery, battery, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and cannabis possession. In 2016, multiple arrests followed. Weapons and marijuana charges in Hallandale Beach, armed robbery in Broward County, and a first-degree criminal conduct allegation in South Carolina. The list kept growing. 2017 brought probation violations and more jail time. 2018 saw charges for child neglect, firearm theft, and felon in possession of a weapon. Then 2019 delivered the blow that many thought would end his career for good. Federal weapons charges that resulted in a 46-month prison sentence. Now, pause on that for a moment. Nearly 4 years for a man in his early 20s whose entire livelihood depended on being present, being visible, being in the studio, and on the stage. It was a devastating sentence. But then something happened that nobody saw coming. In January 2021, President Trump commuted Kodak's sentence after he had served approximately 10 months. A presidential pardon. The kind of thing that happens in movies, not in real life. And certainly not for a rapper from the projects of Pompano Beach. But freedom did not mean peace, because the legal system was far from done with Kodak. In 2022, he was arrested for trespassing in January and then hit with oxycodone trafficking and possession charges in July, when police found 31 pills and nearly $75,000 in cash during a traffic stop. That case remained unresolved and continued without a confirmed trial date through 2025. Then, in December 2023, he was arrested in Plantation, Florida for cocaine possession, a charge later dismissed when lab tests confirmed the substance was prescribed By February 2024, a federal judge sentenced him to time served for a probation violation, and by April, the remaining tampering charge was also dismissed. Over a dozen arrests, multiple prison stints, a presidential commutation, cases that stretched across half a decade, and through all of it, one constant truth. Every single time Kodak Black was in public, he was being watched by fans, by police, by the media, by people who wanted a piece of him, and by people who wanted to take everything from him. So, is it really any wonder that when a cashier at a Pizza Hut pulled out a phone and started recording him, his first instinct was to leave? Is it really so hard to understand why a man with this particular history would see a camera lens and immediately think about the worst-case scenario? But there is another layer to this story that most people missed entirely, because standing right next to Kodak in that restaurant was a woman whose presence told a story of its own. A story of conflict, custody battles, allegations, and ultimately reconciliation. Miranda Johnson, 23 years old, shares 2 children with Kodak, a daughter born around 2022 and a son in 2024. Their relationship has been anything but smooth. In August 2025, Johnson accused Kodak of domestic violence and unpaid child support in a Broward County custody filing, alleging abuse, including beatings during pregnancy that led to a dislocated jaw. No criminal charges were ever filed against Kodak in connection with those allegations, and Johnson herself faced legal trouble, arrested on charges of vandalism for smashing Kodak's luxury cars and misdemeanor battery from a brawl at their daughter's birthday party. By September 3, 2025, the custody dispute was settled with an agreed parenting plan, and all related lawsuits were dismissed. And the fact that these two were standing side by side in a Pizza Hut just 5 months later, that told anyone paying attention that something had shifted, that perhaps, despite everything they had put each other through, despite the court filings and the accusations and the arrests, they were finding a way to make it work for their children. They were choosing peace, but the internet did not care about co-parenting progress. The internet cared about content, and what happened next proved exactly why Kodak Black has every reason to be cautious about the cameras that follow him everywhere he goes. The aftermath, viral fame, real danger, and the ghosts that haunt hip-hop. The video exploded. There is no other word for it. Within 24 hours of hitting TikTok, the clip had proliferated to X through accounts like At My Mixtape and At Daily, loud with captions emphasizing the humor in the cashier's plea. Engagement metrics soared with that Daily Loud's post alone, garnering over 5,975 likes, 165 and 125 replies by February 17th. Instagram Reels, Facebook shares, YouTube Shorts, every platform picked it up, and every platform ran with it in a slightly different direction. Some people thought it was hilarious, and honestly, from a certain angle, it kind of was. Users like @Thabo called it pure comedy gold, praising the cashier's enthusiasm as a once-in-a-lifetime moment while noting Kodak handled it like a champ. There was something undeniably funny about watching a grown adult behind a cash register completely lose their composure because a famous person walked in to buy pizza. The memes wrote themselves. People were cracking jokes, stitching the video, adding their own commentary. It was peak internet entertainment. But underneath the laughter, a much darker conversation was brewing, because others, such as @William258118, speculated openly. Paranoia, or just over it? And that question, simple as it sounds, cut right to the heart of what it means to be famous in hip-hop in 2026. To understand why, you have to go back to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in South Los Angeles on September 12, 2022. PMBB Rock, real name Rake Hashem Allen, was 30 years old. He had a fiancée. He had children. He had hit records and platinum plaques. And he walked into a restaurant for a meal and never walked out alive. Freddie Leone orchestrated the crime by sending his 17-year-old son to execute the robbery and shooting. The attack was swift and merciless. Surveillance footage showed that an accomplice, Tamont Jones, had fist-bumped PNB Rock at 12:31 p.m., potentially spotting his jewelry, valued at approximately $500,000, and alert. The shooter entered at 1:16 p.m. in a ski mask, demanded items at gunpoint, and fired after a brief struggle, hitting Rock in the chest and back. He was pronounced dead less than an hour later. Trone was convicted in 2024 of murder, conspiracy, and robbery, receiving a sentence of 31 years to life. Jones was sentenced to 12 years for robbery and conspiracy. Justice in the legal sense was served, but PMBB Rock was still gone. His children still grew up without their father, and the hip-hop community was left with a wound that is never fully healed and probably never will. This is the context that every single person commenting on that Pizza Hut video understood on some level. When Kodak Black saw that phone come out, he was not seeing a fan. He was seeing a threat. He was seeing a potential location tag. He was seeing every headline he had ever read about a rapper who was in the wrong place at the wrong time because somebody decided that content was more important than a human being's safety. And Kodak has been here before. This was not the first time he drew a line in the sand over being filmed. In 2022, shortly after PMBB Rock's murder, Kodak reprimanded a fan on Instagram Live for filming near his car, questioning, "You don't see that stuff that just happened to PMBB Rock, so why you recording me?" He accused the fan of lying about their intentions. and made it crystal clear that unsolicited recording was not something he was willing to tolerate. Not then, not ever. The message was loud and it was unmistakable. At the 2025 Kentucky Derby, a woman aggressively insisted on a photo and Kodak simply ignored her and walked away. At concerts, he has been hit with water bottles and responded by urging crowds to deal with the offenders. On live streams, he has confronted fans over perceived disrespect, debated with trolls, and exposed people who tried to provoke him. The pattern is consistent and unmistakable. Kodak Black does not play when it comes to his personal space and his personal safety. And yet, for all of that, the Pizza Hut moment also showed a side of him that people do not always get to see. Because he came back, he could have kept walking. He could have gotten in his car and driven away and ordered from somewhere else. But he heard the sincerity in that cashier's voice. He saw the regret and he made a choice to stay. He finished his order. He dapped the cashier up. He took photos with the staff and he left on good terms. That is not the behavior of a man who is ruled by paranoia. That is the behavior of a man who has learned through years of hard experience. When a situation is genuinely dangerous and when it is just somebody who got a little too excited. 2 days later, Kodak posted a video addressing the trolls who had been criticizing him for being seen at a Pizza Hut with Miranda Johnson. He did not hold back. He talked about being a father, about spending Valentine's Day getting gifts for his children, about the fact that he was out with the mother of his kids doing something as ordinary as picking up food. He called himself the zookeeper and dismissed anyone who had something negative to say. His message was unmistakable and delivered with the kind of raw, unfiltered conviction that only Kodak can bring. He was focused on his family, focused on his children, and focused on living his life on his own terms. And that is perhaps the most important takeaway from this entire saga. Because the Pizza Hut incident was never really about pizza. It was never really about a star at cashier or a viral video or even about Kodak Black himself. It was about something much bigger and much more difficult to talk about. The fact that in the hip-hop community, everyday outings can become flashpoints due to fame's pressures. It was about the fact that artists like Chappelle Ran have had to publicly plead with fans to stop what she called predatory behavior disguised as fandom. It was about the fact that Fat Joe once called rappers an endangered species. And nobody laughed because everybody knew he was telling the truth. The line between admiration and intrusion has never been thinner. Social media has collapsed the distance between celebrities and their fans, creating parasocial relationships where fans feel intimately connected to artists who do not even know their names. And while most of those connections are harmless, even beautiful in their own way, some of them cross a line that can never be uncrossed. P&B Rock's family knows this. Pop Smoke's family knows this. Drio, the Ruler's family knows this. Drio, the Ruler's family knows this.